revenue-wise per month is 30 grand.
I sat down with 5 property millionaires and asked them for their best advice for anybody getting started in property. We talk about mindset.
Don't get me wrong, I was absolutely shitting myself.
We talk about some practical tips on making sure your properties stack.
He's 27, within 18 months has acquired 325 million worth of assets.
And we even talk about how you can make £500,000 in 1 year. I hope you enjoy it.
Let's say you boys get a bit older and they come to you and they're 18 years old and they're like, Dad, I want to do property development and I want to go big. What's one big thing that you've learned that you'd like to impart to them?
Start small. So as much as they say go big, it's got to make financial sense. You've got to buy at the right price. You've got to factor every kind of contingency, not every contingency, because if you do that, you'll just kill the deal. But plan A is you're going to rent it out. Plan B, you're going to sell it. Plan C, can you cover all the cost to just basically make a small margin or just break even? Just look at everything, but make sure you buy right. Don't try and just do a deal because it's close to you and it's convenient and it's in your town.
Yeah.
Make sure it's the right price. So we always say, like, you've got to buy with your head, not with your heart. So if your figures don't work, don't buy it. I think the biggest thing that stops people getting started is the fear of borrowing money from people. So it's not the fear of doing it themselves or actually buying property. It's the fear of borrowing money and the fear of not being able to pay it back.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing that stops people.
Yeah. I think that will come with time. You know, when people do deals, you know, after a few, they'll have confidence in the process. But it's that first one, isn't it?
But it is also that, as I said before, that there's value in what people are investing in. So for a plot of land, for example, that £157,000 that we bought, we borrowed all the money to buy that land. If we were to sell that site, it was actually valued at more than 157 grand. So if it didn't work, we'd sell that site on and pay people back. But then as soon as you get the first drawdown from the lender, you're building a site that has value as it builds, it increases. So if you get down to damp-proof course, so up to that value of the site would probably be 250 grand. And then as it's building and you get halfway through the development, it might be 500 grand. Like, there's value as you're building it. So actually, yes, you are borrowing money from people and there is a way to pay them back somehow.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just doing it on a whim and hoping there'll be something to pay them back with.
And nowadays, I stopped talking about the house. I know this podcast, we haven't really talked about mechanics of HMOs and stuff, and apologies guys, but there's actually a reason behind why I now probably share more of my mindset, the way I think, because I started to realize what actually moves the needle for a lot of people is their mindset. Because I can sit down with you and tell you how to make 100 grand a month, but if your mindset isn't wired right, it doesn't matter the mechanics what I'm teaching you, you're not going to go make it, because you're not going to get resourceful, you're not going to do whatever it takes, you're not into personal development, you don't believe in the value of time versus money. Like these core principles, like you have to understand this stuff, and if you can't get your head around this, forget amassing wealth. It's just wasting your time. It's just, you might be able to luckily build it, get fortunate, but over time you're gonna crumble, because there is a foundation to acquiring wealth. And for me, it stems from your personal development, education, and your mindset. If you can't get these things in place, forget it. So that's why nowadays I'm very big on like just sharing the way I think, and because that's the only way people can kind of, I guess, understand where I'm coming from and how I think, to be able to get to where I've got to.
I was speaking at an event last night in Bournemouth, and there was a bunch of young people, and they were like, well, how do I start? And I've got no experience and I've got no money. At the end of the day, you need one of the two. You either need money or you need experience, because if you have no money and no experience, there's nothing you can bring to the table.
Yeah.
If you got money, it's easy because, well, okay, I'm putting up the money. You just find someone like yourself who has the experience. You merge and, job done. Normally the hard part is people don't have the money, okay? So therefore you need to have experience. And I say experience and not knowledge, because the problem with knowledge is anyone can go on a course and be like, well, yeah, I know exactly how this works, but
I've had people come to me and say, invest in me, I'll do some deals. You put the money in, and don't worry, I'll do it. I've not done anything yet, but I've been to this course.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah,
it's not experience.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas if you work for someone for free, now you have something you can put your name to and say, well, I've actually done it for real, as opposed to I've just been on a I raised money for my first rent-to-rent deal. Because in my head, I was like, well, I now have credibility because I've done something. Like, I had been involved in real things. I haven't just been on a 2-day course. And now I'm saying to people, well, I know exactly how this works because, I've done the course in that location and that location. So I think the way you've done it or the way I've done it is, to your point, it's the good 2-step system, which is get some experience and then raise money as opposed to just jump in and start raising money. Because I know, there's so much content nowadays that you can just use other people's money and all that sort of stuff. But it's like, why would I give you money if you haven't done it before?
Yeah.
It's challenging. It's very hard. And so I had a bit of a transition. And that's actually what I recommend to everyone. That if you're starting out, do rent-to-rent, but do it with the intention of, maybe I'll do 2, 3, 4. I'll make £3,000 a month, £4,000 a month. And then use that experience and credibility to start doing, the bigger stuff. Whether it's you own a property in the USA, you own a property, do HMO, you turn a house into flats. Because the benefit of rent-to-rent is it doesn't take much money and you make a lot of cash flow. The downside of rent-to-rent is you don't own the property, so there's no appreciation. And at the same time, you have much less control. So for whatever reason, if the landlord one day wants the property back, because I don't know, maybe they want to sell it, maybe they want to move in themselves, whatever the reason is, it's like you don't control.
There's only so much you can do.
There's only so much you can do, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. If you're starting out and you have like nothing else to do and you can't afford to do anything else, it's definitely a good way of starting out.
How old were you when you were doing that? Just before you started the secure?
Early 20s.
Early 20s. Yeah. So your 21-year-old self is sat across from you. What would you have advised him to do?
I mean, obviously I had money, so I could then sort of invest. I was just picking up single-let, buy-to-let investments, the Portsmouth flats. Obviously I've got quite a lot of property in Warrington, which I've sort of accumulated over the sort of last few years. But I think if you're sat there with the idea that you would like to get involved in property, but you've got no knowledge, it's different. If you've got capital, you can then put that to work and learn on the job. If you've got no capital, you've got to just
learn
somewhere. You've got to, go to the free courses, forget the upsell, which will come. just go to the courses and just pick up these nuggets, be around property people, just sit there and just listen to the conversations and just absorb knowledge. YouTube, there's a lot of good value on YouTube. There's probably as much value on YouTube as there is in the courses anyway. That actually is all free. You don't need to pay for. So I would maybe start there. I mean, check my YouTube channel. I just think you've just got to just get involved. I think that if you look at the property strategies, I think a starting point is always deal sourcing, rent to rent, and those sort of strategies where you don't really need capital.
Low barrier to entry.
And that's the reason why I guess you're seeing a lot of people promote courses in those areas and strategies at the moment, because they are more accessible to people, which opens up the market to who they can sell those courses to.
Yeah.
But I do think that's a good place to start, because if you can learn the art of deal sourcing, not repurposing stuff that you've seen off another deal sourcer, actually going out there, finding deals, analysing deals and knowing that it stacks. Yes, it might be a case you don't have access to capital, so you might have to then go and sell that deal. But I think if you go through that process, alongside that, network, meet people, learn to raise finance, you'll get to the point where you can actually then do your first deal. And then, like I say, you'll learn so much on your first deal. So kind of once you've gone through that process once, twice, you'll just pick up this knowledge and then you'll be off. So I think that's a sort of starting position.
Or anybody listening or watching, if they want to get into development and they want to make 500 grand this year, what would you tell them to do?
And they want to make it and cash it in this year?
Yeah, let's say that.
It's going to be deal sourcing. You're not going to, one deal, if you want to take it through planning, build it out within 12 months, it's going to be a smaller deal, so it's most likely not going to have £500,000 in. So realistically, you're going to be looking at deal sourcing, which is very achievable in a year if you get the volume out. For example, just thinking of on the student sites that I did with my dad on the Triumph Road in Nottingham, which was the Jubilee campus, we just flipped that on to a student provider, never built it out, and it was over £2 million basically just for flipping the land on, and that was less than 12 months deal cycle. So And that's not, obviously you need some specialist knowledge around student there, but the numbers are big in property development. So if you find the right deal or couple of deals that there's good margin in, there's an agent that I know in Nottingham that if he brings the right deal, he gets 100 grand. As long as the deals stack and it works, he gets 100 grand. So obviously he's got a good knowledge base that justifies that. But, providing you, and that's all very learnable. We're not talking about open heart surgery here. This is all stuff that's available online. It's all available out there. There's a lot of resources. Get knowledgeable on it. Know how to find good deals. Know how to stack and package good deals. Developers will pay for it because it's a skill a lot of developers lack. So, yeah, deal sourcing, either assigning options or selling it on once you've got planning. 100% if you wanted to make.
So you'd get an option. So say you want to sell a piece of land. I get it agreed with you on an option contract. There's an assignable option. We agree, I don't know, 100 grand for it.
Yeah.
I then go and get planning on it. I then get the value up to 600, 700 grand.
Yeah.
Sell it to a developer who would say, great, I will pay you £500,000 to have the option to buy this land for 100 grand.
So, there's two main mechanisms. One, you can actually assign prior to planning. So if you found a site that could be worth, let's say, £1 million when it's got planning, and I can see that by running my own numbers. I go, yeah, it's probably worth £1 million. I can see why it probably should get planning, so I justify that risk. But you say, look, I've got it on an option for 300 grand. And I go, okay, well, let's say £500,000. Let's say it's not as much. So it's £500,000. Cost me 50 grand to get planning for 10 units, let's say. So it's 450 grand fat still in this deal. And you say, but I want 100 grand for assigning that option. I might go, okay, so there's still pay planning, get my 10 units. There's still 350 grand. Yeah. Providing there's still enough at that top end, you can justify an assignment fee.
Okay.
So that's one option, is assigning it over prior to planning, and you just walk out and literally they replace you in the contract. Or we typically do a back-to-back transaction, so simultaneous exchange and completions. Yeah. If planning, only because it's more legally secure in terms of the contracts. So in that situation, you've got it for £500,000. Let's say, go back to that same example. You come to me and say, Rosey, got this site, got planning, de-risked it, got all the reports, I want £1 million for it. I do the numbers, I think it's worth that. I say, okay, yeah, I'll give you £1 million, or it might be 950, might be 1.1. Different developers will come to slightly different numbers. It's normally within 10%, I'd say. You pick who you want to go with, and on the day of completion, I send you £1 million, or your solicitor's £1 million. Your solicitors send £500,000 to the landowner. I then become the owner of that land, and you walk away with £500,000 and laugh all the way to the bank, hopefully.
Nice.
I hope you found this video really helpful. If you did, then you're going to love the property course that I am creating right now that I'm going to be launching in January. And if you want to get access to that completely for free, then make sure that you sign up using the link in the description. We're going to be going through all sorts of stuff that you need to be aware of before you get started in property. Or even if you have got started in property and you just wanted to revisit some of those fundamentals, those core things that you need to be aware of, then that course has been designed specifically for you in mind. Again, completely for free. Get signed up. The link's in the description.